All right, everybody. Welcome to tonight's monthly programming for Cannabis Lab. Tonight's program is on construction in the cannabis industry, literally building your dream brick by brick. So I know a lot of people are looking to get into this industry and you want to build your dream. Well, these are the guys that will actually physically do it for you. So we're going to learn about what that looks like. Obviously, there's been another round of licensing coming out, and we're going to learn more about that next month on our November 10th panel, and that'll be down in Miami. And if you want more information on that, you can check out joinclab.com. Folks, as you know, my name is Todd Rosales. I am the host of the Elevate Your Grind podcast. I am the president of the local Cannabis Lab chapter. With me tonight, I have Eric Rogers, project manager at SR Construction, Jeff Lair, director of architecture and engineering at DAG Facilities, and Jacob Murphy, the former director of retail construction at GTI. I know you're out on the West Coast, so we'll get your updated position there. But like I said, this is about building your project from the bottom up. So guys, instead of me going through and reading your bios very long and drawn out and boring, I'm going to let you guys just give a brief summary about who you are and what you do. So Jacob, let's start with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi. My name's Jacob Murphy. I was in today's conversation, showing that what are the benefits of having an own along with your general contractor. So my background, I'm an electrician by it's in that inside in development, real estate development, and construction management ever since. So I've been in the United States for about 10 years and have done a handful of cannabis projects across the country over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Eric? Eric, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. You got me now?
Yep.
All right. So SR Construction, we're a Division I turnkey statewide Florida contractor. We've completed over 500,000 square feet of cultivation and processing, and we're up around 85 and counting retail dispensaries throughout the state. So we've been in the cannabis space since legalization. We're going to expand on our success and go nationwide 2023. So we've got some good things going. Good to be here.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Hi, Jeff Lair, Director of Architecture Engineering at DAG. Been with DAG for about 1.5 years now, but in the industry for almost 6 years. My old job was commissioning and designing cultivation sites all over North America, so up to about 200 sites or so, ranging from a remodel gas station all the way up to 1 million square feet. But yeah, so DAG, we're a turnkey style GC as well too. So we take your idea from concept to commencement, try and be involved the entire stages. But yeah, just happy to be building. We have a few sites all over the East Coast. We've been in Brown for about 7 years now too.
Awesome. Well, we have 3 experts on the panel tonight, and I know we have a lot of stuff to get through, so let's get into this. So let's ask the obvious question, gentlemen, right? I get a license, whether it's in the state of Florida or if it's another state, and I know that you each kind of touch different parts of the supply chain and where you do most of your focus. So just kind of as you go around the horn here, talk about your area of expertise. But, you know, say, for example, I'm one of the luckies, I want to build a vertically integrated business, right? What's keeping me from just buying some kind of existing facility and converting it? You know, as far as retail goes, I feel like I just need 4 walls that I can build out. When it goes to cultivation, maybe I can buy an old tomato farm or something along those lines. It seems a little bit more straightforward. Why would I want someone who has cannabis experience or cannabis industry experience when I'm looking to literally build out my facility? Why is it not just a local guy? Why don't I reach out to my cousin Sal? He's been a contractor for about 7 years, you know. Gentlemen, tell me what somebody who focuses on this industry will bring to the table in some of the things that the average Joe or the average person who gets into this industry may not think about when it comes to physically constructing their project. Jeff, let's go back around with you first.
Yeah, so a big one of people, like you're saying, hire their uncle or so forth like that. The big difference, I'd say, from a cannabis facility design to general construction is when you're doing general construction, you have an end goal in mind, your finished product, which is the building itself. When you're designing for cannabis, pretty much once that building's finished, now you're just starting your process. You're pretty much building a machine to make sure the whole thing operates as one. So even though that building's done, you have to focus on all your set points, who the end targets are pretty much, and keep it going. And you want to build for expansion as well too. So someone that has an understanding of what they're building also helps out a lot too, because you can read blueprints, you can build something, but to speed up the process, you need to know what you're building. But the big thing I'd say is understand that you're not building for an end goal, you're building for forward movement, forward motion with the entire cultivation.
All right, Jacob. And you guys feel free to jump in after each other.
No worries, all good. I think the big part that sets the facilities apart, and Jeff really hit it on the head, the building's the building, and any general contractor can build that, but it's the environment in which exists inside of that. I think a lot of the pre-construction work that goes into this and understanding site availability for utilities is a driving factor here. So making sure that you've got adequate power, making sure you've got adequate water supply, making sure you've got what you choose, or rural versus commercial versus whatever. And they come with different jurisdictional factors that you have to achieve. So using South Florida as an example, Homestead is given as a rural designation, and with that doesn't require a traditional building permit. It still has to have life safety. So there's nuances that are going to be proactive for what you're trying to do, can be a pitfall into what you're trying to get to as the end goal. I think Jeff hit it on the head. Once you've built the building, it's the biggest part now is getting your facility set up in temperature, humidity, and controlling those aspects, and really sinking in with what the end goal is of the plant, and making sure that we're driving those endpoint results to be able to get the best flower out at the end of the day.
Sure. And then Eric, I know you deal a lot,
Yeah.
with retail as well. Give us a little insight to those facilities.
Yeah. And just to really touch before I do that with the retail, basically the bill too is different on your cultivation that we have found is more on the money side for our clients, the big MSOs, where we have figured out, kind of do it on a modular basis. So they can 50,000 square feet now, like Jacob had mentioned on the interior, make that happen sooner. So they can experience the ROI sooner. But on the retail the pre-inspection is the big thing, because this isn't like building sunglass huts. You want us to get in there while you are developing drawings instead of after, because they're not dealing, with Fannie and Freddie backed properties. These are not desirable. And in Florida, the codes are much more stringent, as far as that goes. So get us in earlier the better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with that. So
Pre-construction.
it's interesting to see some of the nuances, and Jeff and Jacob and Eric, you touched on this as well too, is it's interesting that it's not just a construction project, that you really are building a giant machine. So when you look at some of these indoor facilities, and I think we've all toured them, like the shell of the building might be, it's a shell, it's a warehouse shell, but inside of that building, you've got water treatment and feeder systems and different rooms and lighting and timers and making all of that work together, like you said, as a giant incubation machine, if you will. It's very, very intriguing.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I'm sure entrepreneurs are excited, and people who go into entrepreneurship, they're not exactly known for their patience and listening to other people sometimes. So, somebody gets a license, they start looking, they go ahead and they lease a facility because it's got the 4 walls and the ceiling they need, and it's got enough indoor square footage that they think they need to get this done. How much of a problem does that usually cause? And going back to Eric's point there, getting you guys in the door early, how much does relying on someone like yourself to find the right location or even just the right facility, like I said, little nuances, whether it's a load bearing wall that you might not be able to take out, or just, hey, you only have enough square footage for 75% of the equipment you need. How early in the process do you guys prefer someone get you involved? So this way you can really help with the planning, not only with the actual building of the quote unquote machine, but where that machine's going to go and the easiest way for them to get it done. And realistically, the cheapest, because I imagine if they buy a facility before they bring somebody in, there are some workarounds that might have to be put in that are not as cheap as finding the right place from the get-go. So Jacob, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that the point of difference that I'm going to more speak to in this is on the owner's rep side. So having someone that's in your court from day one, that's on your payroll and has only your best interests at that stake is I believe a really important partnership to bring in. As that site selection portion is going through, I really do implore either using the services of a general contractor that is experienced in this and working with them from day dot, or looking at being able to hire an owner's rep that's in your corner from the day go, and they're a vested partner with that. So they're going to share the trials and tribulations that they've gone through. And I can speak probably for these two here saying that we've all gone through a learning experience in this industry. And we've basically been flying the plane for the last X amount of years while we're building it. And with that, there's a lot of knowledge that sits, and even just here and across the industry, but that knowledge for anyone new coming into this industry is a huge part. We're all wanting to be able to share that and bring people up. We all want to see everyone be successful in this, but I can't drum this home enough, is having the right team from day dot is the best way to go. It is an investment up front, but it's an investment in your success for the whole part forward. So yeah.
Eric?
With the totally agree, Jacob. And again, this is something that we have identified, particularly in Florida, that's vertically integrated, and where it is to be scalable, to offer real-time pricing, and that's what we can bring to the table in today's construction environment. It is different. Florida construction is different, but everywhere is feeling the pain with supply chain, how much. And the sooner you can get in there, we can value engineer and find things that you can get sooner that maybe you didn't know, you even needed. For example, we've come across a set of plans, on a retail location that didn't even have a mop sink in it. They're never going to get through the DOH. And that's where, that's not going to help us out. Let's get that taken care of now, before you even put a lease on a property. Let's go ahead and do it that way. Another example, a municipality may not have something, C1 approved. Let's make sure. And we see it all the time, so false starts cost you a lot of money. We'll put it that way.
And Eric, that's a great point on the retail side. I think bringing someone in for specifying retail and just focusing on that right now is being able to be a part of that lease negotiation. Like our experience in what this is and the requirements of the DOH, which is not just standard for building ordinance and what the building inspector is looking for. We're able to help with situations like that we're bringing in that experience that we can help negotiate or help negotiate to be able to have collect those additional tenant improvement allowances that are available in the lease for deficiencies that are in the building shell and the building base building that you're going to need. So the better way you can offset your cost with the right professional help up front, I think is
exactly.
It's gold.
Even cultivation, we've got a handful of the new licensees that we've gone, on site, the geotech, the water, the power capabilities right now. Those are type of things that you would partner with the owner rep, a Jacob, and work together. So you can say, yeah, that's, we could definitely, that site's doable, but it's going to cost you a double, right? You know, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
that's where, you know, and I know
100%.
Jeff is going to parlay that real quick. Yeah, is the pre-construction on the cultivation. You know, those boring samples will tell us how much load we can build on a piece of property. And in Florida, like you had mentioned, Homestead is a different site construction than up north.
Yeah, I agree with the pre-construction. You definitely want to get in as early as possible. Todd, you mentioned, you know, 4 walls and a roof there. Sometimes that might not be there. It could be a brand new field, a green field project. So if you are leasing out space, are the proper utilities there? Do you understand your budgeting? Do you understand what's around you, your egresses, your soil for that actual, before you even purchase any property? You can bring a GC in a lot earlier on, whether it's building out your schematic design, then getting the pre-construction, as Eric was hinting at, getting early procurement going too. So you know your long lead time items. So you can do the design build the same time you're doing your pre-construction. You can get all your procurement ready to go. So you're ready to build in the end. And like one thing I like to tell people is you don't really want to play whisper down the lane. So you start with one idea, you tell the next person, tell the next person, tell the next person, tell the next person. By the end of that, completely different idea. Everything's lost in translation. Whereas if you have the original guy who started the conversation and the, you know, the construction project, really nothing's lost. You a lot of big ones on that is you reduce your change order costs too, because now you already know what you're planning. So now you're saving money, you're expediting your timelines, and then the whole project goes a lot smoother too.
So on that note, Jeff, and just to kind of throw this back to you, and we can run it back around the horn after this too, how much do you guys help and really save with compliance, right? You know, I'm sure that most of these companies have a chief compliance officer or someone in compliance, or even a general counsel that is looking at everything that needs to be in place, especially if they come from outside the industry and this is their first go around or their first facility, or maybe they come from inside and they've just never been a part of a cultivation grow before, right? You know, how much do you save time and streamline compliance, basically saying, hey, we have these facilities there. I don't want to say they're pre-built, but like, look at this facility. This is what you need, this, and this, and this. And if you don't do that, there's no way you're going to pass inspection, right? And then on the other end, going down the road to when you're building that machine again, and again, I know we're kind of focused on cultivation here for a second, vendor selection, right? How much experience do you have with the water filtration systems and the HVAC systems? And how much experience do you have with the different light vendors? Listen, you go to MJ Biz, there's a bazillion different kinds of lights, LED, gas lights, et cetera, right? So Jeff, I'll jump in with you on that. You know, how much of the, I don't know, say, do you have like 5 cookie cutters like I would go into a new construction home development and pick from one, but do you have kind of pre-designed plans where you can show them like, hey, this is compliant, this is what you're going to get out of it, and you know, we've worked with these vendors and we think they're great and you should, you know, here's why.
So the second part, I fully agree with. The first part, the cookie cutter plans doesn't always work for everybody. So the cultivator might not understand, you know, they might become, we call, you know, basement grower was the term. Or if they already are a large facility grower, they might have a certain way. So if you gave a cook a kitchen, he might tear out the oven and put a new oven in there. So we try not to cookie cutter too much, but when it comes to vendor selection, I always tell people, especially the MJ BizCon, don't just buy the next shiny item to keep up the Joneses. Understand like what has been vetted, what has been proven. Definitely look at the customer service of that equipment as well too, whatever vendors you're picking. And then that's what a good GC will help you kind of understand the whole process. What's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, what's been replaced. So that's a big plus of, like we said earlier, the procurement side, the early side. If your GC is able to help you with that, they're going to save you money in the long run. They're going to save you headaches, and they're pretty much going to set you up for success. So.
Yeah, that's literally happened to us in a processing center where plans were done, submitted, everything was ready, and the fan selection changed from up top. So as a GC, this isn't the cannabis construction, cultivation, processing, and even the retail. You need to be nimble. You need to be able to communicate, over communicate. You know, you need to be able to, you know, be in the room and understand ROI. And that's where, you know, we can really, you know, or any experience, cannabis experience GC can make sure that your, you know, your MEPs, your important, you know, very important, interchangeable mechanical, electrical, plumbing, because it all works together. You know, that's one of the very first questions we had. What makes it different? Cannabis cultivation is the fact that it's a very delicate flower. So the security, And the people we know, as we've gone through the experience that we've had, that's what we would bring to the table that Jeff alluded to, is say, hey, check these guys out. So I agree.
And Todd, like from what you were saying before with vendor management, I think it even goes a step earlier than that, and it's selecting the right design partners. Too often have I seen that they've got a general commercial rated sort of architect and engineering group that haven't specifically done cannabis. It's a different environment, a lot of mechanical, and it's heavy mechanical based, but a lot of mechanical engineers are going to say, yeah, I can do that. Failing in that environment, it's so precise that if you don't have a design partner that understands how to achieve that with the necessary equipment, that's a huge pitfall that you're going to get into. From the ownership management side, like 80% of your change orders are derived from your coordination efforts between your MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So 80% of change orders that are driven from a project all are based out of coordination between who is bringing you in as your design partner and how they're partnering with the GC. Bringing that GC, and to sort of pull this full circle, bringing that GC in really early with that design partner, that you're taking that the coordination issue out. It's never going to be zero, but you're taking out the burden as much as you can in the earlier stages, so you're understanding what your cost parameters are up front and not walking into a X% over budget of change order driven aspects that could have been done in your pre-construction phase with the right team.
Very cool. As you guys are looking at the different facilities across the country that you've been involved in, the ones that you've been a part of, or even just the ones that you've toured, what are you seeing as far as innovation, or really just what works the best out there, right? Obviously here in Florida, we started out with a lot of greenhouse and mixed light grows. We're starting to see a lot more indoor come into play. You're starting to see massive indoor 2000, that's not a number, 200,000 square feet, 400,000 square feet. But realistically, there are places out in California that have hundreds of thousands of square feet under what they would call indoor plus, as a marketing term, but they have these full concrete facilities with the ability to open the roof to let light in. What are we seeing that is putting out some of the best product at scale? Because I think that's the name of the game. And then on top of that, you don't need to answer that question directly, because I could be wrong. Maybe that's not the top innovation. What are you guys seeing out there that might be different or innovative that you would like to see other people adopt? Eric, you go first because you're raising your hand.
The vertical grow. That's a big thing right now.
Growing up.
Yeah. Like the vertical grow is a great view of what that is. Like real estate in this country is skyrocketing, and the cost to be able to gain what that is sometimes unachievable, especially in a startup environment. So
the per
smaller square
foot
footage with high.
Yep.
So and at the end of the day, we're driving factor for an MSO or for a single operator is canopy, and be able to get pounds per square foot and what they can get as a return out of that quality flower.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, I guess a little differently. Myself personally, I'm not a big fan of the tiered systems at all. Once you work in them, it's good in theory. A lot of times I'm getting more canopy per my square footage, but when your employees are bending over every single day, or you're out to your scaffolding, you're not seeing what's above you. I always tell people, when was the last time you cleaned above your fridge? It's only 6 feet tall, but it's probably super dirty up there. So it's one of those things you got to think about when you're building your facilities. And the other one you're asking, which facility is making the best product? It's really not the facility itself. I'd say it's the grower, the cultivator. Are you set up for success with all your vendor selections? Myself personally, I like the warehouse style the best, because you are going to get, once you get in the track and you have a full controlled environment, you are going to get a reproductive product over and over again. So if you find a recipe that works, your dispensary, you're selling a certain product that works all the time, you can come back around again, and then you're going to make a consistent product over and over again. Whereas the greenhouse, you can save up cost front on some of your lights and so forth, but it could take 2 years to calibrate the whole facility itself too. So in this meantime, are you losing product? And, what's the trade-off that you really want to be looking at the most? So that's why like full enclosed thing, you can track it, you can monitor it, and you can repeat the process over and over again.
I'm a big fan of indoor weed, so I fully second that. Right. I think it's definitely some of the best product. I'm loving some of the indoor that we're starting to see in Florida. It's something interesting to me would be as you're designing this facility, and Jeff, you just kind of leaned into it, talking about your employees bending over and they don't know what's on top of them. And I don't know the last time I cleaned the top of my fridge, so now I'm gonna have to go check that. And I'm so never probably. I've been in this house 4 years. It's probably disgusting. But how much, when you look at and you're designing a facility, especially when you have growth in mind, are you looking at the flow of product through that facility and making sure that it is easy once they're actually operating, right? Because in theory, you can put something down on a blueprint and sounds good, looks good, but then all of a sudden you've got, fresh harvested plant going from one corner of the building to the other. It doesn't make sense, right? Especially if you have different parts of that building, if you're going to have cultivation, processing, manufacturing in there, if you're going to have a kitchen. So how much do you consider the order of operations of the supply chain mixed with how many employees they're going to have working there when you're building out stupid things like doorways and hallways and locations like that? How much does that come into consideration?
For myself, I guess, so operational efficiency, just the flow of everything is huge in my book. Think of it like a conveyor system. You're not going to go halfway down a conveyor, pick it up, put it in another spot of the conveyor, and then put it somewhere else around. So you have to understand when you're designing these facilities, building them out, how the plant grows, the rooms that they grow in, to the process, if it's production, if it's manufacturing, just regular cultivation, or, whatever they want to do. You want to make it ease of maintenance for the employee. And this even goes all the way down to where the locker room is placed. Is there a break room on the other side of the locker room? They have to go back, change again. If your facility is 500,000 square feet, is your bathroom only on one end? You're going to lose an employee for a while doing that. So you always want to think about that. And then going in with the operations is also, a lot of people say more canopy, plus more profit. But a lot of times it's, possibly a little bit less canopy, but now you're setting yourself up for all your maintenance requirements that all your equipment needs, the flow of operations. Can you get a cart through there? Can everything work properly? And then you're going to have a more well-oiled machine that's actually going to produce you possibly more product in the long run versus just, maximizing your space for canopy. Now you're maximizing your facility for efficiency.
Very cool. And Eric, I know you focus on retail a lot too. As you're answering this question, maybe kind of jump in with how you're doing that in the retail side as well, when you're looking at showcases and just the flow of people through a retail environment. And do you take into consideration how much foot traffic that store might have, on a busy time?
Absolutely. We like to get in there and, at least assist a little bit, but even on a macro level, we're able to communicate numbers, et cetera, to the cultivation facilities, since we do both cultivation, processing, and retail. We've got, a set of controls and protocols that we follow to assist our clients. And that's really helped us out a lot, is that information on when those retail locations are going to be complete. We offer fast track for those retail, but going to, the flow. The thing I think that everybody needs to be aware of is that, particularly in Florida and in America, we're very infant in the stage. You need to be scalable on that retail location. Make sure that the back of the house can hold enough, because Todd, you never want to go to a store and they say we're out, because
I've done that and I've been very unhappy.
Yeah. So they need to be on the lookout for, when it does go rec. In Florida, what I checked the website today, OMMU, there's only 759,000 in Florida qualified patients medically, 22 million in Florida. There's only 487 retail locations. So just take that in consideration, particularly for the new guys coming in, that your facility, that your cultivation facility is flowing all the way to the end on the way out. So that's what we have seen, where the back of the house is getting larger, Todd, your yeehaw-ness. You know, they're going to have, you know, some stock in there for you. And we've
Beautiful.
seen those changes, those design changes already happen, you know.
Very cool. One of the things where I feel like you guys definitely add the most value here is, you know, you've got so many markets that are legal in the United States and on different ways, whether it's medical or whether it's recreational cannabis, and each state legalize it in their own manner, meaning there are different departments within that state that are responsible for the you know, compliance efforts that you guys have to hit in each state. How complicated, and maybe this is going back to the first question that we had, but how complicated is it to manage the permitting process and the bureaucracy process of cannabis grows versus most other industries in the United States? Because, you know, like here you're dealing with DOH and potentially FDAX, and, you know, in another state it might be under another government agency, and in another state it might be in another government agency, and maybe there's this one for this and this one for that, and sometimes it's a little bit more local. You know, how complicated do those bureaucratic pathways get when you're building a cannabis facility? I think Jacob, we'll start off with you here. Maybe.
Sure. So I think that the two parts here that I want to touch on is start with Florida and then look at it from the national, that you build your building and you're understanding what the rules are of the DOH to pertain to that, but they do for inspections after you've built your building, which doesn't happen in most other states. So coming in to be able to get it, so you can go through and you feel like you've hit everything. And look, the DOH inspectors are great to work with. They're very informative. As long as you're trying and showing intent of doing the right thing. So on the cultivation side, it goes back to site selection. Are you working in a jurisdictional area that's considered rural, and then you don't have those building permit aspects? You've just got life safety. The interesting part, and when you're building up these facilities from a life safety standpoint, is that where if you've got a processing facility, you're working with different chemicals, you've got obviously high level of airborne dust and different things that are around. So working through those mitigations, I think, is a huge part of that, and understanding what that is. Pertaining to the DOH portion of that, that's where you bring in these experts to keep sort of guiding you through that process to ensure that you've got a minimal compliance list at the end of their inspection, and you're opening up the doors day one, not 50 after your first inspection. From an outside Florida perspective, Florida's its own unique animal, and knowing the trials, tribulations, and pitfalls in that, it's guys study up, and even in that a well-informed entrepreneur is also dangerous, but the best part of entrepreneurship is someone that's well-informed and willing to challenge the status quo and make sure and holding the groups accountable. But outside of that, out of state, I feel that if you're following the regulatory approvals, again, hiring the right compliance team, there's definitely people. I know there's a partner that I've worked with in Nevada, for example, Amanda Cameron, and her firm is phenomenal. But she has a great relationship with the cannabis. She guides you through that process to ensure that you're getting your security cameras angles correct, and that basically you're coming out of your retail or your cultivation experience, and they're ticking you off. That trusted partner value, that you hired the right person to be that guiding person all the way through and get you to a successful opening.
Jeff, you have anything to add to that? Tell us, who's the biggest pain in the ass? What state is it? No, I'm kidding. Obviously, we won't get anybody in trouble here, but if you want to allude to it, you're more than welcome, all of you.
The Northeast, but I will say, the one thing is, what you're saying, have all your SOPs in place, pretty much have your plans ready, just be ready. And if you just work with, any regulatory advisors that are there in that area, that's the best practice. Every new state that comes online is completely different. Jersey will come out with new paperwork every single week. Like, here's your canopies, your whole site. Oh no, it's just, I'm going to tie a rope around your plants. So every new thing's kind of different. just kind of keep on top of them, keep working with them. And honestly, what Jake said, they will work with you. So
don't you have to be a made man to operate in New Jersey or New York in construction?
that's right. Yeah, can't talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't talk about those things.
Yeah. Careful.
My name is Robert Friedman, if anybody is watching
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
This next question is inspired by Molinar. He's in our audience. And it's an interesting one. I'm going to kind of change your question, Molinar, but how often are you guys looking at some of the new technologies and the new efficiencies for these facilities? So Molinar has a company that it looks like recycles air conditioning and dehumidifier water to feed the plants. Seems like it's something pretty cool, stops a lot of wastewater. Obviously, I don't need you guys to weigh in on his solution, but how often are you looking to see what's out there to bring to the attention of the people you're working with, where it's like, hey, this is it's in its early stages, it's really cool, their next edition is going to be something along those lines? How much do you guys have your ear to the ground in that matter?
That comes up to us pretty often. Someone goes, check out this equipment, check out this. Can I
Mhm.
put this in there? Can I put this in there? I always tell them, look at the case studies, try to track, see what's happening with it. If you have an unlimited budget, I guess that's okay. But I was pretty much every site that we design and build will always have an R&D facility or section inside it as well too.
Yeah.
A lot of these new technologies will almost give it to you for free sometimes and let you showcase all the case studies that work with it. But I mean, a lot of times if it's been around for a while or been proven or there's vetting, it's one thing. But like I said, you kind of want to look at the tangible evidence of everything. Otherwise, R&D is a great spot to try things out. Try out your new lights, try out your new vents, your fans, recycling water. But sometimes it is a little risky though for such a high priced crop to throw a brand new technology in there right away. So nobody wants to be the guinea pig, obviously, and put their money at risk. Everybody says, I'll do it. But do they actually do it is the big thing. So
Yeah, the R&D section, definitely, Jeff, totally agree. And that's something, show me, don't tell me, is the number one way to do it. And in Florida, run it by us, run it by a contractor, make sure, depending on what the product is, that it's compliant. There's some things that we've seen come through that just do not fly in Florida, particularly on an exterior, and sometimes, having to do with the mechanical.
So Mullen, to sort of answer your question, to point blank, there is a cost that's associated with capturing the dehumidification and the runoff from your air handling units. It's interesting, and I'm going to use Florida as an example, and I'm going to use the Mount Dora area as an example of that, and that greater water management district. It's really interesting to see what these government agencies are now tracking what your water use is and what you're doing with your runoff waste. That wasn't a concern 6+ years ago. It's a growing concern today because water runoff from these facilities, and they may have a level of salinity, they may have any of our the pesticides or anything that they're putting on the crop, and what that's going through and whether we can recycle it or not. I think it was Jeff who said it is like reusing that water and putting it back into the crop is usually a pretty dangerous aspect to reintroduce a water that's gone through and it's not groundwater and you're not treating it specifically for the nutrients that are found in that groundwater to be able to use it there. So is there a use for that, and flushing toilets and general cleaning and things like that for brown water? Yeah, I think that's there, but putting it back onto the plants is usually in the technology that exists today, in what I've seen personally, is not something that we look at doing.
So I'm going to go off script here. I'm going to ask an interesting one because I just got a news alert on it that I saw. And I think this is one that's very topical. We recently saw in the news that GTI will be opening up miniature dispensaries within Circle K gas stations or convenience stores, wherever you want. I know you guys are not attorneys. I know you guys are not policymakers, but based on what you've seen from constructing these facilities, and the regulations that you need to follow, where you can build them and how you can build them, how much of an issue do you think, and let's preface this by saying this is all opinion, do you think that GTI and any other company that would make a similar deal, I'm going to target the Wawas to kind of counteract Circle K, but how much difficult do you think they're going to have getting this done under how they announced it, where they would share the same roof as the Circle K and be a separate facility? So for those of you who don't know, the way they announce it is very similar to how like a Walgreens would operate, where you have two doors. One takes you into the liquor store, the other one takes you into a Walgreens. In theory, the Rise Express, and we'll keep plugging them because they're the first ones to announce it, would be another little entrance within that.
Yeah.
Are they crazy? Do we think it might happen? Just based on what you guys know, and then let's preface, this is all personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to be careful with an opinion here because
Well,
it's very
I think
fascinating on how they're going to do that with the retail and in Florida, the requirements on the security. You know, you mentioned security cameras, Jacob. I mean, these things, you know, are pretty solid, and there's already pretty stringent chain of command in a vertically integrated company already. And now now you're adding somebody that's outside that vertical, vertical integration company. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how they do it. I mean, very interested, obviously, in how that deal got done, on the back. And I'm sure there was a lot of lawyers, probably some that are members here of C-Lab, that were involved. And we have a stable of our own. So very interesting. Great question, Todd. Gonna be tough.
So I think I could probably speak more to this on anyone, considering where I've just departed from. So I have to say, Ben and AG, who run basically GTI, very, very smart. I admire both of them. What they thought of with this is going to a gas station, buying a Mars bar, and grabbing a joint.
Let's preface by saying it's a phenomenal idea. I just want to know. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, like, Ben's thought process through this was really funny. It's like, I can go and buy a bag of chips when I buy my gas. Why can't I buy a joint? And the funny thing, working alongside Ben, he's always trying to figure out the next thing. And I loved that and still do. And look, the way that GTI is going to do this is obviously the headline was very put together. And again, this is my opinion. The headline was put together as a grab, and they have a great PR, like Rosie Matteo does phenomenal. But they did it and they worded it in the right way. Is GTI going to go into this? Like, the way that this is looking at this is that when there's a Quizno or a Subway that's a part of these buildings, that's what they're doing. It's going to be completely separate, walled off, its own entry point, its own security scan. It's going to have its office. It's going to have the consult room that is required by the DOH law. They're going to be able to have everything. It's just, and again, I'm just picking a number here, but it's the top 20 SKUs, and it's their highest product or their most economical. I can't speak. Todd, you're moving that onto me. And that's what they're trying to achieve here. And I think it's a fantastic model, and hats off to them. It breaks the stigma of everything that we have to work through in the cannabis industry. It normalizes it. And I think it's a great thing. Kudos to them. And I know that they'll get this through because they're a team player and they want to win. And that's why they're one of the, if not one of the only profitable MSOs that are out there.
Jeff, anything to add? Should other companies be targeting Wawa?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I kind of look at it both ways, where I know it's probably going to, I mean, you watch LinkedIn every day. It's going to make a big division between the people that call them, craft growers versus the MSOs, saying, hey, you're making a mockery of it by, it's going anywhere you can, try and go everywhere. It's not the medical thing that we all or appreciating. So there is that scale of things, but I mean, I do get the idea of the convenience factor, normalizing it as Jacob was saying, going in there, because I think most gas stations make their money just because once when you're pumping your gas, you're going in, you're running, grabbing something, you probably don't need it at all. But then again, it's a touchy subject, I guess, for people, but we like to see normalized, but at the same time too, at a gas station, I mean, I don't get my sushi from a gas station, but I can get quality sushi somewhere else. So I mean, I think of it like that too. So
you can get a good sandwich at Wawa or Circle K, though.
It's a shame that Blockbuster Video is not still in business, because how great would have that been?
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have bought it in the parking lot of a Blockbuster. Gentlemen, we've been talking for a very, very long time here, and clearly, I'm an educated person, but by no means am I an expert in this field. Before we wrap this panel up or even open it up to questions, are there any last topics that you guys think we should cover before we turn it over to the audience and let them go wild?
I just kind of just wrap it back
I think
up.
my parting. Go, Jeff.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, kind of talking about, because we are talking about dispensaries as well as cultivations. Just keep in mind, especially for the Florida state, a lot of things are need to be built for scale. If you're getting into the industry, think about scaling yourself in mind, whether it's your own product that you want to keep growing, or you are trying to sell out to an MSO possibly. It all is for scale. So you always see these people from Shark Tank. They say, oh, why'd you fail? It's like, oh, I ran out of product. So, and then the supply was there, but or the demand was there, but no supply. So that's a big thing to think about when you're building whether it's a dispensary or cultivation. Always keep in mind that you can phase things out and you can build larger, but don't rush it.
Jacob?
I'd say go with experience.
My biggest. Yeah,
that's
it. You go, Eric.
Go.
Yeah.
No, that was it. Just go with experience.
Yeah. Having the right people. Yeah, 100%. Having the right people. 100% what Jeff said. Ensure that you've got the ability to scale. Don't design yourself out of the ability to be able to knock a wall down and build another slab next door, or on that lot that's sitting there next door, and being able to push and grow, because in this world, that's what happens. And you want to grow, you want to build this, you want to be bigger than you were yesterday. So thoughtful planning, plan in for your scalability, have the right people around you, ask questions. This community is so helpful, and we all want to see everyone succeed. I get phone calls all the time of people asking advice, and I'm happy to help, and I part my wisdom. If it's a little bit more than that, I can help and partner. But I look, hire the right people, have the right team there, people that want to win for you, and knock it out of the park.
Very cool. If anybody has questions from the audience, please put it into the Q&A section of Zoom, and I'll be more than happy to read your question. We'll give everybody a few minutes to catch up here. In the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, folks, as I mentioned earlier, these are our monthly programs. Next month, we typically have these the third Thursday of every month. Next month, we're going to do it a little bit early. We've got, a couple events coming up. You've got MJ BizCon, you've got Thanksgiving. So we are going to do this on November 10th. This will be on November 10th at American Social Brickell. Cannabis Lab is starting to get pretty cool now. We'll be at AMSO and Brickell, and that's going to be a great event. It's going to be on the next round of licensing in Florida. We've got representatives from the legal side, from the funding side, from the regulation side. It's going to be a great panel. So if you want to check that out, if you want to attend in person, you can go to www.joinclab.com and get that information and buy your tickets. It's going to be a phenomenal event. It'll be fun. It'll be educational. It'll be a good time. And that will be the last event before a holiday party. And if you are a member, or if you've been, a longstanding part of C-Lab, please come to the holiday party. That'll be in December, and more information on that will be at joinclab.com. And then finally, if you're a huge fan of Elevate Your Grind, our next episode will be with Jim McLeod of Cloud Cannabis in Michigan. It was a real fun conversation. We talk about a lot of topics, from just educating consumers, starting from scratch, what the Michigan market looks like and why it's so mature because of the caregiver market that was legalized in 2008. That'll be live on Tuesday on the Cannabis Lab Facebook site, YouTube site, and LinkedIn site at 2 p.m. So check that out. Do you guys, there are no questions. So we'll start with you, Eric. Just let people know how they can contact you, Eric, Jeff, Jacob, and then we'll sign off.
You got it. You can catch us at S as in Sam hyphen R as in Roger hyphen construction.com. You can get all of our contact information there. Make sure you go to our industrial page. Some nice examples of our large scale indoor grow facilities, processing centers, you know, they're on that particular page. So srconstruction.com. Thank you guys for having us this afternoon. Todd, thank you. Great job.
Absolutely. I know I'll see you in Brickell.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yep.
Jeff?
Yeah, thanks again for having us. You can contact DAG at dagfacilities.com. Once there, you can see, you know, all of our showcase things that we do. We also offer things such as called our launch plan, helps you do schematic design, your budgeting, all your equipment layouts, a very preliminary thing, get you ready for licensing, get you ready to move in the next one. It is part of the stage anyway, so get in there as early as you can, but dagfacilities.com. Thank you.
Jacob?
Last one. So I think in learning a little bit more about me and connecting is through LinkedIn. Jacob Murphy. My email is the letter J and then Murphy, MURPHY 2300 @gmail.com. Happy to help guys however I can. Todd, thank you very much. Robert, you, Eric, Jeff, always pleasure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to give a special shout out to Todd Freeman for helping coordinate a lot of this and coaching me up on my construction knowledge and lingo for this event. So Todd, thank you very much for that. Jeff, I know he's very near and dear to your heart. So gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I hope to see you all in Miami at American Social Brickell next month. Really quickly, honey, I don't know when the next round of licenses are coming out, but the next event we have on November 10th, we'll be discussing those licenses and future rounds of licenses. So if you're in Florida, come check it out. If not, we will have a digital meeting on joinclab.com. And also, folks, this if you have any friends that haven't seen this one, it will be on the C-Lab YouTube at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind in a few weeks. So check it out, share it with your friends. Everybody, happy Halloween and have a great night.